Gold and silver investing are often seen as ways to free ourselves from unsound monetary policies, bad governments, and government control. For some stackers, seeing gold and silver as investing or as investment is a stretch. I believe that's simply because of what we've traditionally focused on when it comes to gold and silver, which is what they protect us from or lock out. However, if viewed and used correctly, gold and silver can actually unlock a very different world for us. Gold and silver, similar to a lock and key, can represent and mean so many different things. Often seen as symbols of freedom and confinement, the symbolism of locks and keys is undeniable. Fun fact, the very first keys and locks were actually made out of wood and built off of the basic concept of a hole in the door where a key simply went in and moved a wooden bolt. The early Egyptians used wooden keys to lift tumblers out of the bolt, and then leave it to the good old ancient Greeks to be the first to create metal keys, which created the basic lock concepts that we still use today. However, in the world of psychology, locks and keys serve as an overarching theme ranging from dark themes of sadness and trauma to more positive concepts like a key that opens your soul, heart, and mind. Keys are a symbol of openings and closing, while locks can serve as protection and security. At the same time, a key can be the difference between freedom or entrapment, and locks can be to constrict or to restrain. While the function of these two are to lock and unlock, the question we have to explore is, are we using our metals to lock ourselves in or to unlock a door to something greater? By now, most of us know the reasons why we stack, and many of you have shared those in the last video. It's true, we stack because it's real money, to protect our buying power and wealth, to be our own bank, because fiat is worthless and worth less and less every day. We stack for its ability to hedge against inflation, for protection and safety, because it has zero counterparty risk, and so many other reasons. I know personally, and many of you have shared this as well, investing in gold and silver has changed your entire financial life. The way you view money, how you think about it spending, and even how it's helped you save even more money. In our last video, I introduced Exeter's pyramid and this idea and the reality that the further we get away from gold, the more risk is introduced into our monetary system, and how eventually that financial system will implode upon itself and ultimately come back to gold. I was so pleased and a little surprised to hear that many of you have never heard of this before. I've been meaning to cover this topic for months because in so many ways it's a very foundational concept. More of that in a second. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link it at the end because I think the video really is worth watching and we build on it in this video. One criticism of Exeter's pyramid is the limited applicability to the individual. And that's when I shared Robert Keynes' motto. And while I like his motto, and this is far from a critique, it just doesn't resonate with me. And I think some of that is because over the years, I've kind of played with and created my own version of a pyramid, which I'm going to share with you. So hey, be gentle in the comments and the critiques. It's still a work in progress. And I actually haven't done much work on it in a few years. If your educational experience was anything like mine, the most unfortunate part is that we had to learn this information on our own. Through many years of formal education, at no point did anyone really teach us about money, investing, starting businesses, or anything like that. They taught us how to go to work, get a 401k, use that employer matching, and pray the stock market isn't crashing around the time you retire. I knew I wanted out of that rat race, but I didn't know how to do it. So 20 years ago, I started coming up with a plan, and this plan has many of the same elements as Exeter's pyramid and Keynes' motto, but I believe it's focused more on what we as regular people, starting with nothing, can do to create real wealth and hopefully generational wealth, which you've heard me discuss before. So with that, I want to share what I'm now calling Stacker's Real Wealth Pyramid. First, we start by flipping that pyramid right side up because we aren't building a house of cards here. We need a strong, sturdy base. And my model focuses on 5 asset classes. And the first distinction I make is between real versus the derivative side of each of these levels. As each of these assets have a derivative cousin, just like physical gold and silver have gold and silver ETFs. We are stackers. We believe and we deal with real money and real assets. So just like they don't talk about Bruno and Encanto, we don't talk about derivatives around here. The pyramid has 5 main levels, starting with your personal finances, precious metals, real estate, businesses and commercial real estate, and then ultimately equities. It's important to note that like Exeter's pyramid, the more we move away from the base, your personal finances, risk level increases along with the knowledge and skill level you need in order to take advantage of that asset class, as well as the amount of leverage that is also used in that particular asset class, which are actually 3 of the most important variables we should be concerned about as an investor. Speaking of the investor, it's important to notice here that you, as the investor, are in control. and are the most important variable in this entire process. You've heard me say that multiple times by now. At the bottom level, we start with our personal finances because it's the difference between building a house on bedrock versus sand. If our personal finances aren't right, it will crumble underneath the weight of everything else. This means having a personal balance sheet where you monitor your income and expenses. It requires you to spend less than you make and to save and invest the rest. It also means having very good credit and hopefully being debt free. I say hopefully because even though the numbers and the math say you should not invest before you get out of debt, I also understand that we are humans, and human psychology also tells us that having something to save towards can help motivate us and will actually make it easier for us to make those sacrifices that will allow us to get out of debt faster. I know that's a little contrarian. Each person is different. You have to make that decision for yourself. For me, it's the difference between leaving and having some place to go. The next level for me is precious metals, which should focus on monetary metals such as gold, silver, and platinum, and not so much on industrial metals like copper, nickel, and lithium. Again, this is mainly about establishing your base. While I personally started in real estate and then discovered metals, I think it's far better to start with metals for a number of reasons. Specifically, metals teach you some important skills about saving, being disciplined, and of course, real money. Not to mention, it doesn't require a lot of money to get started, and you don't have to have a lot of technical skill or knowledge to start stacking. Because when you move on to real estate at that level, at this level, you really need to be able to have some technical knowledge. And you have to use some of your personal savings more than likely, and you maybe even selling some of your metals to make that first purchase. If you haven't noticed, that first purchase is not your personal residence. It's an income producing rental property. I know it sounds crazy, but my first purchase ever was a duplex. So we have to remember that your personal residence costs you money, even with the tax benefits. My duplex gave me about $200 a month, but later on it allowed me to refinance and use those funds from the refinance to help pay for my personal residence. That rental income can then be used to replenish or continue to grow your metal stack so that you create this loop of the money that you make from this income generating property goes back into your foundation, which is your metals. Real estate also allows you to use other people's money from the bank and other people's time from the renters by them working every day to pay the mortgage for you. Now that we started to understand leverage and OPM, and particularly in the form of a mortgage, and we've learned how to run our own personal balance sheet in the first level, and now a balance sheet of our business, yes, your income property is a business. Now that we have those skill sets, you're actually ready to venture into something like a business or commercial real estate. And that can take you many different directions. Some of you may remember this. My preference is businesses that don't require me, or at least not me, to physically be there. So I love things like laundromats, car washes, storage facilities, vending machine businesses, franchise businesses. There are a ton of businesses out there that you can run, you can build, that only need your brain and your money. But most importantly, not your personal time. We're trying to build wealth, not trade your current boss and replace them with you being the boss. The same is true for commercial real estate. So instead of owning the laundromat, own the building and let the owner rent the building from you on a triple net lease for 10 years at a time. You don't want to own the storage facility? Then own the land that you lease to the person who wants to build the facility. Then you can continue to build from there and explore things like equity offerings and derivatives and things like that. Stocks, index funds, mutual funds, bonds, treasuries, etc. Notice that that is also the smallest part of the triangle. If you learned something, if you're entertained, if you love stacking, if you love Stackers University, or you just want to show me a little bit of love for the effort that it takes to put these videos out, could you please do me a favor and hit that like button? It really helps me with the algorithm and get out to more people so that we can help spread this message, because if you think this is valuable information, we want as many people as possible to see it. My Stackers Real Wealth Pyramid is about having full control of your life, your income, your assets, but it does require you to be an active participant in your life and for you to take responsibility for your financial situation. Congratulations, you've already started that process by being a stacker. Now we need to let your gold and silver unlock more and allow it to open up a whole new world where you're choosing not to just be safe, not to just stack in case of the world falling apart, but to focus on what you want and the type of life you want to live, to choose saving money investing your time and your money into learning how to acquire assets that produce income, because choosing wealth over things and liabilities is what makes the difference here. You see, stacking isn't where you're supposed to end. It is an endpoint in some ways, but it's not where we're supposed to end. It's actually where we start, where you start to understand that wealth is about real assets, not things that make you a paper millionaire that crash and burn overnight. I think there are at least two parts of this pyramid that are great, and maybe I'm a little biased. One, you don't like the order of things? Change it. You don't want to do real estate? Skip it. This is just your starting point, and I need you to be, heck, you have to be your own chef here. All I've tried to do is arrange it in a way where the skills stack on top of one another and what seems to make the most logical sense. The second part that I love about this, and the best part for me, is that this pyramid doesn't care about your age, doesn't care about your race, your gender, your disability, your upbringing, or your current income level. It simply requires you to start with you, the one thing in this world that you can control. In the comment section, I want you to simply write, "It starts with me." Feel free to add any other thoughts about my model, the other models we discussed, and I'm absolutely open to critiques and criticism. I knew there were a lot of A+ students here, but I didn't know we had this many. Wow. Thank you for seeing it all the way through. Always stack smarter, never stop learning.